How's it going, guys? I'm Jeff.
I'm Alyssa.
And welcome to the Love That Last podcast. We're talking about faith, culture, and answer your questions. What's up? How's it going?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah, it's to you.
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
You know, I'm doing good. It's a great day. It's a
Good.
great day.
Good day.
Guys, we hope you're having a great week. We hope you are doing well.
Kids are already back in school.
Yeah, guys, if you live in Hawaii,
Or
kids
East
go.
Coast, Midwest.
Do you think that they go back to school then too?
I feel like West Coast is the only people that it's like later.
Yeah, that might be right. That might be true. But yeah, guys, so in Hawaii, people go back to school super early
This
August.
week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mhm.
It's too early. I remember Washington was like middle of September.
Well, after Labor Day.
Yeah, so I guess early September, but still. So, well, hope you guys are having a good week. We hope you're doing well. Let's start off by talking about if you guys don't know, I'm writing another book. I can't really give it away on what it's on because at the end of the day, I don't know what it's on yet. It's still kind of in that stage of like figuring it out. But I'm working through my own angst in some sense of like I think and I process through writing and through thinking. And so I like the book process because it takes a long time. So you get to get your thoughts down on paper, then refine them, then like you kind of get to chase the hunt. Does that make sense? Or you get a hunt and kind of have this chase of like figuring out exactly what you want to say, what resonates, what don't. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw yesterday I posted a preview of it, or just kind of some thoughts that were in my head, and it was cool. I think I always just put that stuff out there, and then if it resonates, then I want to talk about it more because then it goes, oh, there's something here, right? And sometimes it doesn't resonate, and then I'm just like, oh, I'm the only one that thinks that. Cool, okay, bye. But it was clear from yesterday that one really resonated, and essentially what I talked about is the question that's kind of haunted me, not to keep it uber strong, but is like, why are we not superhuman yet? Right? That's kind of the question I asked in the book is like, we think about how much information we have, guys. Like there's never been more information. There's never been more content. There's never been more podcasts. You're listening to one right now. There's just never been more stuff for you to better your life. So why
That's kind of the theme right now is like
hack your life,
hack your life,
be more efficient,
live your best life.
Live your best life, optimize your life. But my question is like, why have we not gotten there then yet? Right? That's
why is life still hard?
Well, that's a logical question we have to ask is this, if we all have every little tip and trick to eat better and work out better and we have all the information and all the right things, then why are we not better? Right? And then I would actually say there's a sense in which we're worse.
I agree.
There's a sense in which we're disconnected from our ideal self more than ever because of we can have a higher ideal more than ever because we see everyone else's life. We see everyone else's pursuits.
More comparison.
Totally. And so for me, it's like we have to actually ask the question, okay, why has no one reached superhuman level yet, right?
And I feel like side note, it adds a lot of pressure on us because we feel like now we know all these new ways or ways that are better. And so then we feel like we have to be all things, do all the things
Totally.
and be all the things. And it's like, oh, I'm not living up to that. So then I feel like it almost is this some people don't. I think it depends on your personality, how you receive it. But then sometimes for some of us, it can be like a double, I don't know if I want to say shaming or guilt or whatever of like, oh, not only am I not my ideal self, but like I'm way behind what other people are.
Well, that was one of the parts that resonated with a lot of people is a lot of people said that, which I don't feel like I struggle with that
That might
personally.
be more of a girl thing.
But yeah, there was a lot of people that messaged me and basically said like, man, I just feel like I'm not the FOMO stuff, but more from like the personal development, what you're pursuing as your dreams and your goals. They just feel like I'm behind. Like I'm behind and like I feel like I should be farther along. I feel like I should be
Or be
have
able to
more
do it in
money by
30
now, or
days.
have a bigger business, or it should have been quicker, or I just feel like my process for things is slower, less efficient, messier, and more wasteful. But I actually think wastefulness is a sense of holiness. We'll actually get to that in a second. Jesus was wasteful in some sense. He was lavish and he applied things in a non-efficient, non-optimized way. But yeah, there was a New York Times article I read that was super fascinating yesterday. I'm not going to name names, but the secular journalist, op-ed, I think, was basically talking about it called it like the cult of the podcast bros, I think was the title of it. And it's super interesting. Like if you look at some of the top podcasts in the world, most of them, or at least some of the most popular right now, are white males that all kind of center around this like optimization of your life.
Totally.
Like if only I could just get a little bit more advice, if only I could just get a little bit more inspiration, if only I could learn from one more expert, then I'll be better. And I just am like, I don't know. I mean, not to be blunt, but I feel like I'm just kind of over it. Like, do you feel like I'm just over it? Like, no, I'm good.
That's your eightness.
Yeah, like I'm good. I don't need to hear another expert. I don't need to drink another mushroom coffee. I don't need to drink.
Ew,
did you know that's a thing?
Wait, no. Tell me about that.
Google it. That's all I can say.
Well, you know
it.
I'm not going to Google it, so just tell me.
Basically, it's this type of coffee made out of mushrooms that's supposedly just supposed to,
Not out of coffee beans, but it's out of mushrooms?
I don't know exactly because I don't get on the mushroom coffee train, but all I know is it's something with coffee and mushrooms, and apparently you just are better, right? Or I don't want to get up and drink a mushroom coffee and then jump into like a 50-degree plunge pool and then do some weird thing. Like it's weird. But that's what this article talked about is like and super fascinating from a philosophical critique standpoint of like the podcast bros, again, for lack of a better term, but this is what the article is kind of using, of like that culture of the white males that are just about optimizing and leadership and development and all these different things. They're kind of replacing religion and church. And what it talked about is because there's such a gap now between the nuns, as they call it, from Barna, of like the most popular religion now is like none, N-O-N-E, like I have no religion. It's like Barna calls that like it's the generation of the nuns, like just non-affiliated, non-whatever. I just don't care. But because we're in that culture of the nuns, not N-U-N, but the N-O-N-E religiously, that gap has to be filled some way, right? And what's super interesting is and this is super interesting how it goes into the stuff I'm writing about next with like liturgy and the more older high church traditions like Anglicanism or even certain parts of Catholicism, etc. There's a lot of and Jewishness, which Jesus himself was, of highly liturgical. What's interesting is this article talks about the podcast bros are highly liturgical. It even used that word. It said it's the liturgy of the daily ritual, right? Like these guys
like
are all about
habits.
Yeah, it's all about the optimization of like do these little things every single day that are kind of weird and funky and a little bit out there. But it's giving these people. So she kind of pronged it on three things.
That's
They give them they're super high on daily rituals. They're high on a sense of meaning, right? Like you have purpose, you have meaning. And then it was one other thing, maybe like community, like you have people affiliated that are like...
Which sounds so Christian.
Well, yeah.
Yet it's not like based on the truth of Jesus.
Totally. I think I almost like get giddy when like secular journalists notice things that I'm like, oh, that's so prophetic and profound from a Christian standpoint. Yeah. And she was, and saying that like, yeah, they're offering those three things, right? The sense of community, the sense of meaning, and a daily liturgy. That's creating almost this religion or this church of like self-help, self-development, leadership, hacking, etc. And back to that, like hacking, guys, like there's this thing about, and this one's been around for even a little bit longer, of like life hack, like life hack 101 and ways to cut corners, etc. Like I don't want to hack anymore, right? Like I want to do, how about the way of Jesus is actually the slow, messy, not cutting corners way when you could have cut corners or hacked your way, right? Like I don't want to hack anything. I want to just do meaningful work and do the same meaningful work when I'm 80. Boom, done. I die. Right?
Which, coming from a man who wants to...
I do want to do a lot of things.
Well, no, not even that. But I feel like your motto for so long has
is actually
been like,
efficiency.
How to do it.
Totally.
How would you used to have like a saying?
Well, it was a joke, but I would say like I want to do the most I can least amount of work for the most amount of like impact or money or outcome.
Or even when you go hiking, like
totally. Yeah. My hike, guys. If someone says, "Do you want to go on a hike with me?" My philosophy is it's got to meet these three criterias on the 10 out of 10 level, and the one is huge payoff. Right? Like I'm not going for a hike if it just ends like next to a tree.
You're not going to exercise.
Yeah,
you're going to see something crazy beautiful.
If it has a 5 out of 10 payoff, I will not be coming with you. Right? Like it has to have a huge payoff. If it's just literally a hike where you just go in a circle or you end next to like 2 trees, I'm good, bro. The second one is it's got to be, I'm fine with like exerting energy and working out, but it's got to be fast and quick. Like I'm not going to do
45 minute.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a 45-mile hike, but I'll do a 45-minute straight uphill hike. And I forget what the other word was, but yeah, it's like kind of this high, like, and Rattlesnake Ledge in Washington is a perfect example of that.
Our favorite.
It's like 2 miles straight uphill, super strenuous, but it's like, it takes 40 minutes. So you're done very quickly. The payoff is insane. You're up on the top of this mountain. It's incredible. But no, I say that in a joking way, but I do think.
I'm just saying, I love that you're saying what you're saying in light of the type of person you are. You're not the person that's like, the steady Eddie, like just take my time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not putting you down. I just think like your personality is like you make decisions fast. You go for things like you're really smart.
There's a level of that about me that'll always be true. But I do think
I love then that you're wanting to just like do the hard and messy and be faithful. I'm just saying that I think that's a really
Totally.
sweet thing because people may be like, oh, well, that's good for you if you're just like a steady Eddie.
Which I'm not. Yeah.
Yes.
I like if anyone can say these things, no one would get, I'm the least likely person to be saying these
Yes,
things.
yes. Most people would probably put you in the camp of
Fast, efficient, et cetera.
the podcast.
Totally. But I think that's
people.
almost in some sense, I'm closer to the sun in that sense too, right? Where like the people that usually are like that more feel the ramifications of it quicker and faster before the rest of the people, right? In the same
Yeah.
way that Steve Jobs didn't let his kids have an iPad because he was closer to the sun, right?
Right.
Like he was the one that made the iPad. So like I feel like because
Like
I'm
you
this,
of all people should be a life hacker.
yeah, and because and in some sense I am, but I also like what's the goal here? If the
Right.
And here I was thinking about this morning. Are we just trying to? We're so obsessed with hacking and proficiency and efficiency and
Or being the best.
being
or,
the best. And like I
Yeah.
don't care anymore. Like I want to be like this sounds bad, but I want to be mediocre. I want to live a boring life, and I don't want to chase my passions and my dreams. Now, of course, all of those have qualifications. All
Yes,
of those do.
yes.
I do have dreams. I do have passions. I don't want to be mediocre. I want to be excellent, etc. But there's a level at what I just said of both of those that is totally true and holy. That like,
yes.
that just like, I don't want to chase my passion, my dreams. I want to just like live faithful every single day. And I want it to be boring and mundane. And I don't want anyone to write up about it or make a comment about it or make a video about it. And of course, like this is our life. So there's elements of which we do that. And I always go on one side or the other. But I just think there is a level at which we have
I think
to
you don't
chase.
want it to be about you too.
Yeah, like we got to chase Jesus. And Jesus was slow. He was methodical.
He was
He was
interrupted.
messy. He was interrupted. He was ritualistic. He was rhythmic. He was liturgical. And so if we're going to chase Jesus, then to chase Jesus, you have to be like Jesus. And to be like Jesus, you have to study his ways and go about his life in his speed. There's a speed at which
Yeah.
Jesus works that is very antithetical to our culture today. Even Christians. And I think there was a quote I saw the other day, which I've heard it before, was, what was it? Hurry is violence to the soul. And I thought that was super, super like strong, but dramatic in the sense of like, yeah, like murder is violence to a body. Hurry and busyness is violence to a soul. And I would put in that category like the life hacking or the efficiency because you're trying to chase something. Like you always have to ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in some sense, like to do it out of excellence, out of honor to the Lord, sure, I get that. You want to be the best. You want to be the smartest. You want to be a good steward. But I also think there's something to ask or question about like, do we believe that by chasing, here's what I'm trying to say. Why are we trying to cut so much time out of our day? Like, why are we trying to hack our life so much? Is it because we actually don't have the time? Okay, then that's where we need to zero in on. Like, if we actually don't have the time, then stop trying to hack time and actually realize your life is crazy.
Because everyone has the same amount of time.
Yes. Well, I'm saying like, go to the source. And the source might be your life is actually crazy. You're overworked. You're overspent. You're committed to too much.
Yeah.
And so hacking and all these things might make it less burdensome on you. But I think if you really
I don't
want to
think it's the way
change
of
and become who the
Jesus.
person that Jesus made you to be, maybe quit some things. Maybe say no to some things. Right? So I think that's a certain interesting thing is like, ask yourself, why are we so obsessed with this whole world of hacking, optimization, eating all the different cool, trendy things and all the things that are going to help our life? Like, are we trying to, and then, so is it a time thing? Okay, then cut things out. Or is it a like personal ideal that's just never going to be true also thing? And what I mean by that is like, are we just not proud of who we are currently? Right? Like are we just not okay and content with who God says we are right now? Now, when you really understand that, it doesn't make you lazy. It doesn't make you, all these other things. It actually, like Paul is one of the most, he was prolific. He chased, he ran, he preached, he built churches, he went all across the country. So the dude did not just sit on his butt and like say, oh, I know who I am in Christ.
I even think of like Bob Goff or Billy Graham or
Totally. Some of the people
you know.
that know who they are most in Christ, in some sense, have a level of their activity which is very efficient and proficient and is a lot, right? Like Paul bore so many bore so many burdens.
Baird.
So many burdens and like he did a lot. So there's a level at which when you really understand you're free in Christ, then you are free to actually chase and go fast and jump and take risks and trust that he'll take like when you're free in Christ, then you're no longer free to fail because you know failure doesn't define you. And so then you never are scared to take any jumps because you're scared that failure is going to define you. So you can you jump more or you take more jumps. Kind of like with baseball, right? Like I remember when I stopped caring about baseball as my main identity, all my stats were better. I played better and I did better.
When
and I
was
came
that?
home and I think like in college, and I came home with a lot dirtier uniform because once you don't care, then I just went crazy. I
Yeah.
jumped around, I slid around, like, because I wasn't like trepid, right? I wasn't
Right.
like walking on eggshells. So there's a level at which that's true. And I'm not talking about that. So hopefully people listening don't hear me say that. I'm just saying we need to be a little bit more introspective of the culture that's being created in the world right now and how we as Christians can live as prophetic witnesses in that culture, right? Like, and so back to the wastefulness thing, I think of the story of, where is it?
Sorry, can I interrupt?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going.
I know you're like full. You know that I feel like I see a cartoon or like a GIF in my head where it's like just fire is just little, like the fire hose is just spitting out from your mouth, and I'm like being blasted. But it's also good. But I just was thinking too, like from a woman's perspective, because I'm not totally like, I don't follow a lot of people that are the life hackers and all those things, but I follow a couple of people, and I think it's just that whole ideal is infiltrating our Christian culture and our culture in general. And I've noticed lately in my heart just how I, will be on Instagram or follow people that I really love or friends or whatever. And all of a sudden I come away feeling like, oh, I need to be more or do more or like just be more proficient with my time or eat healthier or all these things. But it's like this pressure on me. And I think what you were saying, it's when I take my eyes off of Jesus and forget about what he says about me, of what my identity is, what he says about me, that who I am in Christ and also I think Jesus, not only does God has a calling on all of our lives. He each gives us gifts and callings, and there's the will of God, which is, that's a whole nother conversation, but simple things like, flee from sexual immorality and give thanks and, really simple will of God things. But then he also has a calling on each of our lives. But then also I think he calls us to things in certain seasons.
Yeah.
And I think we have to really protect that, ask the Lord for that. Lord, in this season of my life, what are you doing? What do you want me to be about? What do you want me to focus on? And what things do you want me to let go or say no to? And we've talked about that in previous podcasts. But I think sometimes when we get into the life hack area or we're on Instagram or social media or even just hanging out with friends or whatever, and sometimes it's really easy to take our eyes off of that and forget what God has called us to in this season. And then we feel like this is who we need to be, like this, I need to add this, or, become entering into other people's seasons or maybe things that aren't of the Lord and what culture feeds us. And so then I think it can be really unhealthy. And we start to then step out of what God has called us to in whatever season we are and try to take on all these other things. And then we start to feel we don't feel peaceful. We feel pressure. We feel like we can't sleep as much because there's so much to do. And we just wake up feeling like, oh man, I have to hit the ground running today. There's all these things. I need to drink my green smoothie because I don't have time to sit down and have, or I need to drink it because I'm afraid of carbs, or these are just lies that I struggle with currently. And so, anyway, I just think what you're saying is on this, it's so true and so big in culture. But then I think in my little way, with not totally being in this frame of mind and, just as a woman, I think sometimes it can be portrayed like this too.
Well, and I think it comes down to the telos, which is what I talked about in that my couple pages on Instagram too, which is that's the Greek word for kind of the end goal of your life. What is and what we don't realize is
sorry.
Drop a nug.
Sorry, no, I was trying to I started to talk to them what am I getting at here? So what I'm getting at is then I forget that but then when I sit down, Lord, what do I want my life to be about?
Yes,
what do I want to be
yes.
known for?
Yeah.
What do I want to be remembered for?
Yeah.
It's none of those things.
Yeah.
It's I want to be a woman who is known for that. Alyssa really loved Jesus and she spent time with him. She talked to him all the time. She slowed down so that she could hear from him and hear his voice. And she stepped out in faith and did things that were I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to do this because God told me, because I have created peace in my life. I've created space to hear from the Lord and to do what he tells me to do, and not to have such a long to-do list where it's I can't fit him in.
Yeah.
I want to be a person who really loves people well, who loves my husband, who connects with him, who loves my kids, who gets down on the floor and plays with them and prays for them and is interrupted all the time by little kids. Like I want to live this like slow, methodical, peaceful life that is full of love and to do small things with great love.
Yeah.
And so when I remember that, then I'm like, oh, I don't need to do all the things or be all the things. And I can learn and I can grow. And I enjoy my green smoothie sometimes, but just like.
And I enjoy my bulletproof coffee, like I mentioned in the thing.
But just creating, I think just what you were saying, just adding on to that, creating this like, and even as I'm talking, I feel like my breath has slowed down. Yeah. I'm like more at peace.
Well, it's freeing.
It's freeing. I'm like, this is what I want to be about.
Permission to release them. Sorry, I mean,
no, I was done.
Everyone needs permission to release themselves from that, like, just do a little bit more, and not in the sense of like, I need to do another big project or job, but I think we all struggle with the micro pressures of like, just get a little bit more efficient, get a little bit more nice.
When I'm running.
Or just get a little bit more healthy or just work out. It's like, and we all have these little, and that's mainly because of the social media. We see everyone doing that. And we see all these optimizations.
We feel like we need to do the same.
Totally. And so I think, I think, I think that's, well, it really comes down to legacy too, right? Like we really have to ask ourselves, what do we want our legacy to be? Because our legacy is not going to be how good of a life hacker we were, how optimized we were, how efficient we were. And a lot of times those things are actually going to go against the legacy we want, right? Our legacy is going to be how we loved God and loved neighbor. Even if like, and you don't have control of it. Like when you die, that's just what people are going to talk about is how you impacted their life.
Yeah.
And almost always that has to do with the slowness of your life, the relationalness of your life, and the messiness of your life and how you leaned in love of God and neighbor. And so I think, that's just like, and even like with us, take us, like our culture, our world would be books, right? Like I love writing books and I'll keep writing books, but I also always want to remember too that like, I think at the end of the day, my legacy is not going to be the books I've written, but it'll be how I loved you or how I love the kids. And there's a more slow cooker steadiness to that than just like, I pumped out another one, right? Like no one's like if I write 10 books before I die, or if I write 11 books before I die, no one's going to go, wow, he wrote one more before he died. He wrote 11, not 10.
But they're going to say that one book and that one page transformed my life.
So it's like there's a level at which our productivity, and here's another thing I was thinking about, guys, like we so are obsessed with productivity. When I was telling Alyssa, like humans are not meant to be productive, right? Like machines are productive. Like if you want productivity, buy a computer, right? Those are very productive. We are messy. We are blood and sweat and tears and flesh and bones, and we sleep for 8 hours a day.
Well, like, some people
have 5, whatever it is. Like we are not productive with the fact that we actually have to like eat multiple times per day. We have to sit on a toilet and release all that we ate. And we have to sleep like 8 hours per day. Like that is so non-efficient. Like, right? Like at the end of our day, there's a bodiliness about us that is messy and creaturely. And I think we don't lean into that. We try to run from that. We try to run from our creatureliness and our messiness and our bodiliness, right? And be all about the mind and all these different hacks in life. So yeah, and then back to what I was saying about the telos. I think that's before. We got a couple minutes here. Everyone I think needs to wrestle with the fact is everyone has a telos. Everyone has an ultimate aim that they're going for. And at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, or whether even you realize it or not, like we become our telos. Whatever end aim you're putting yourself on, that is who you are becoming, and that is the person you will become and the person you look like, right? So I think a lot of times in this culture that we're talking about, the thing that has to also be talked about is what is their telos? What's their ultimate aim? And I think so many times it gets to those things that we were talking about of like, we're not proud of who we are currently, and so we think we need to do more.
Insecure.
Yeah, we're insecure. I think we need to, or we just think that like we need to achieve more. It can be out of pride. There's a bunch of different things, right? But I think that's certainly a huge part of it. And so, man, this was like the most rantiest podcast we've ever done. And I probably would go back and qualify a bunch of little things.
No, I thought it was really good.
But hopefully, guys, you heard my passion that I just think, guys, there's a level at which we need to chase Jesus, not all these cultural cool things. And just like, we got to also admit that just logically and from data, it's not working. Like we have never had more information. We've never had more, and this is making fun of ourselves. We've never had more podcasts. We've never had more e-courses. Like those are things we make, guys. So I'm not totally knocking ourselves, but like, but why is no one?
But there's more anxiety and more depression than ever before.
And it was like, I was joking in the
suicide.
I was joking in the book stuff I was writing where I was like, man, if only Alexander Hamilton had set goals, right? Or if only Mozart, like maybe he could have totally created another country, right? I mean, one wasn't enough. If only he would have set goals, he could have totally been like the framer and founder, one of the founders of like one of the best countries in history. But man, too bad for him. And same with like Mozart or whatever, right? Like I just think we have to wrestle with like, this is such a new phenomenon, goal setting, productivity, efficiency. And I'm just like, is it because we actually have disconnected ourselves so much from everyday real life faithfulness? Just getting up every day, doing the work, going to bed, and not caring about who sees it or what happens with it. Just like faithfulness, right? Faithfulness. And I just think we can get called back to that a little bit more. And I think a lot of our, like, here's the thing, guys. We're chasing the wrong joy. We're chasing that telos. We're chasing the wrong telos. We're chasing the wrong path to joy. The path to joy is obscurity, is faithfulness, is steadiness, and is rhythm, is like just doing the same thing over and over and over again out of faithfulness to God and love for neighbor. You do that, you'll find joy really quickly, right? You might not reach all your little kind of like pseudo goals of like, like even for me, like we do stuff publicly, but I even wish we had more numbers or people watched us more, or did this. It's like, no, that's not the work. The work is to be faithful to what we feel. And some people will engage with it, some people won't, even in the public sphere, but.
And I just think too, there's so many verses in the Bible about like, well, maybe not so many, but I just keep thinking of like, we are God's workmanship created for good works. And he's already prepared good works for us. There's a verse in Psalm about like, he already has the good works planned for us. We just kind of have to step in and do it. And so I think maybe just stopping and asking, Lord, one, starting with, I'm your workmanship. I'm your masterpiece. I am your poem, right? Is that how it's say?
Close. You combined the English translation of poem with the Greek word poema.
Poema.
Yeah,
okay, I was super close.
Yeah.
Like I am your poetry. So knowing who we are in Christ, but then you have prepared good works for me to do. You've given me giftings. You have a calling for my life. You've put me in the city where you have me, with married to whoever I am married to or not married to, kids that I have, our family. So what good works do you have for me to do? And I want to be about that. I don't want to get sidetracked with all the things I see, all the things I hear, all the things I read. Yes, I want to learn from that and I can grow in that. And those are really cool that God's doing things in their lives. But how can I like learn from that? But then also like, just what is your path for me?
Yeah.
What do you want me to be about? And help me to just keep my eyes on you, clear-minded, instead of just trying to be all the things, do all the things, and put all this pressure. Like God does not call us to a life of stress and anxiety and overwhelmingness and pressure. He calls us to a life of peace. And so, and I'm not saying that we can just coast through life and there's never conflict and it's never hard or you feel squeezed at times, but like God wants us to live lives of peace. And so how can I just keep my eyes on you and do the good works that you have for me to do?
Totally. And guys, I don't know if this is the most helpful way to think about it for everyone, but like I've already mentioned in the episode, like for me, it doesn't make me lazy. It doesn't make me just sit on my butt, and it doesn't make me sloth-like to actually chase mediocrity, boringness, and just like mundaneness. Like when I actually want those, I want to be boring, I want to be mediocre, and I want to just be like mundane. To me, like those can coexist with then like me then also still having dreams and pursuits and like trying to understand what God's put in me and write and projects and all that.
Can you define mediocre though?
I don't
want people to get the wrong idea.
Well, I don't mean mediocre in the sense of like
being a
mediocre,
half-assed dad or something.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking people will think of.
Guys, I think that, no, not at all. I think that was the first time Alyssa swore too, and it was on the podcast. That was awesome.
Sorry, Mom.
But no, I think, did you say sorry to your mom?
Yeah. I was joking. I just couldn't think of a better word.
Not the Lord, but
what's
just
a better
sorry,
word?
Mom. No, guys, I actually would agree with that. There's some times where I feel like this is totally like just a very vulnerable moment. Like we don't swear in our household, but there is some times where I feel like I can't think of a better phrase. And half ASS, the one you just said, that's the one I can't think of. Like, what's a non-swearing version of that? That's like actually that actually isn't just like kind of it, but actually is it. Like it's a good synonym.
Yeah.
Let us know if you guys know that. But yeah, I think,
so just define that for people.
I don't mean, it's certainly not like mediocre, like chase excellence in how you are a dad, chase the Lord, pursue him, Try to be the best dad you can be, the best husband you can be, the best person. I mean mediocre in the sense of the way the world might judge you, right? Like, so the way that would play out in the dad stuff is I think sometimes if a dad doesn't have some huge successful business, but all he does is love his kids really well, is at every single dinner, is at every single game, the world would call that mediocre. That's what I mean by that.
Or maybe you don't take the promotion because it calls you away from your family.
So then you're mediocre at your job. They would say, that's what I mean. But you're always, so it's really more a question of what do you define as excellent? What do you define as mediocre? So guys, that's all we got. We ranted like crazy. Let us know on social media what you thought, if it was encouraging, what stood out. If you wrestle with this too, if you can tell the reason we ranted is because we're wrestling with this. I feel like we're in this world. We hear all these things, but I feel like I want to resist. I want to push back. I want to go against this. And I feel like the Lord is calling us a different way. So, all right. We love you guys. Talk to you later.